and it seemed particularly meaningful when he sang it again this past weekend. McCartney, the son of a Liverpool fireman, performed the song for firefighters, police and rescue workers and their families, those who have lost so much since September 11th.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
So I wanted to do something like a lot of people. I felt helpless. I'm not a firefighter, although my dad was in World War II. He was a voluntary firefighter in Liverpool, which got a lot of bombing.
So I'm proud of him tonight. I'm proud of all you guys, the Port Authority, the cops.
6,000 rescue workers and their families were given free tickets to attend the event, called the Concert for New York at Madison Square Garden.
But my parents' generation went through World War II, so I know how they dealt with it. And it was with humor, it was with courage, it was with strength.
They also got through it with music. Would be Bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very, very essential, that sort of stuff. You see all the old film of the Tommies, as they used to call them, the British soldiers, you know, sort of, they're all whistling. And with the dirty lyrics, too, about Hitler, but we won't go into that right now.
Well, this is a family program.
Exactly, that's why we won't go into it. But, you know, you think they had to have something to keep their courage up. So they did. There was a lot of humor, a lot of music, and if it was good enough for them, I think it's good enough for us.
McCartney and the Beatles first came to New York 37 years ago, just 2 months after President Kennedy was assassinated. Then, like now, Americans were still grieving. On February 9th, 1964, the Beatles played in this theater on the Ed Sullivan Show. 74 million people were watching on TV.
Well, I want to show you something. If we just take a look at this television set. Let's just watch and listen for a bit here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
To you. Bedu, bedu. All right. Remember them? Good group.
I'm old enough to remember that group, actually.
Wow. You had to take me back there, didn't it?
Does it seem 37 years ago?
It really doesn't, no. It's one of those staggering things about life, you know. It can just literally seem like a few years ago. And it isn't. It's a long time ago now. But great memories, you know, very exciting for us as Liverpool kids to come to America and then to suddenly be involved in something like that, you know, a really big show. And then the reaction to it, I love. I still meet people who say, I know where I was in our sitting room, and their dads invariably say, those are wigs. They're wearing wigs. You look at it now, it looks pretty short, looks pretty tame.
Paul McCartney's connection with New York has always been powerful. A year after their first Ed Sullivan appearance, the Beatles took on Shea Stadium.
We played Shea Stadium. We were working through the baseball PA. It was just these little column speakers dotted around. It was really just, ladies and gentlemen, the picture is. So we were doing, I want to hold your hand. And it was like not very good sound. If we thought we were playing well, it was a little bit annoying because the people who came to hear couldn't hear us. If we were not in a very good mood and not playing very well, it was a blessing.
36 years later, he was the first to sign on for last weekend's benefit concert.
Love the new song. Thank you, man.
He says his love of New York played a part, but so did his own experiences with untimely loss, beginning with the death of his mother when he was so young. Then in 1968, the Beatles' first manager, Brian Epstein, passed away at the age of 33. In 1980, John Lennon was murdered. And just 3 years ago, McCartney lost his wife, Linda.
As a result of September 11th, we have a lot of people who are still grieving. I wondered if you had learned anything from the times you've grieved with your mother, John Lennon, and your wife, anything that would be of help to them, of value to them as they go through this.
Well, I mean, I think all I can really say is that I think it's important to let it out, to not hold it in. That was really the single most important thing I found. Like I say, as a guy, you like to think you're tough, you can take these things and you can, you know, give me your best shot. But of course, when you lose someone, it's not really possible. You can put it inside yourself and hide it if you want, but I don't think that's a good thing. So for me, what I found was to talk to people a lot, not worry about crying like a baby sometimes, if that's what you had to do, not worried about who was looking at you, and just really let it all out.
Linda died after a long battle with breast cancer. She and Paul were married for 29 years.
After Linda died, I didn't really do anything. Some people said to me, get back into work. That's what you should do, put yourself into work. I just couldn't. I thought, I don't want to. After I'd sort of spent the year grieving, I said, you know what, I was really blessed to have 30 years with that girl. She's such an amazing woman. And it's not everyone has 30 great years of married life. So I looked at the positive aspects of it, tried to kind of rationalize it, and felt that that helped me.
McCartney's positive outlook can be heard on his new album due on November 13th. It's called Driving Rain, his first since Linda's death. On it, he sings about Linda and his new fiancée, Heather Mills, who was with him at Saturday night's benefit and is now never far from his side. With this album, McCartney says he is moving on with his life.
From a lover to a friend, take your own advice, let me love again.
Now, when it came to the concert, surely there was somebody who said, listen, Paul, I know your instincts are great about the concert, but you know, you run the risk of people saying, well, you're only doing the concert because you want to promote the record. You must have had those discussions.
Yeah. And if we listen to them, you know, we'll all just be pessimists. No one will ever write an up word ever again. No one will be able to go back to work, you know. I know why I'm doing it. So, end of story for me. This is my mother, Joe, darling. How are you?
Thrilled to meet you. Thank you for all that you know. Thank you.
This is such a pleasure. Hey, Dad. Come here, Dad.
Thank you again.
Come here. All right, man. Come on. I also want to do it because the mayor and the president have told me that this is the way to go. And who am I to argue with that? Let's listen to the bosses, for one. Let's show some respect. Before, actually, about I think the day it happened, I heard someone say, well, we got this knucklehead for a president. I said, okay, listen to me, stop there. Yesterday he might have been a knucklehead. Today he's not. Listen to me, he's your president. Get with it. And, you know, I mean, I'm not normally that political, but I think that you've got to do that in these circumstances. You certainly don't want the Indians fighting the Indians. I mean, people have got to rally. So I'm doing it, and if one or two people might think it's cynical, so what? You know, I don't care. I'm doing it for reasons I know are good reasons, and it will help people.
For over 5 hours, New Yorkers certainly embraced the concert. Some of the biggest names in movies and music took part. Even though some acts stole the show, backstage, all eyes were on McCartney. New Yorker Billy Joel, for one, gave him credit and thanks for pulling it all together.
Once we heard it was Paul, that was it. Everybody fell into line. He was the guy who pulled it all together.
Why? Why him? Why not you?
He's a Beatle. He's Paul. Tell me a bigger name than Paul McCartney. Can you think of one? I can't.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
At evening's end, Billy Joel and the other performers joined McCartney on stage to perform a Beatles classic.
There will be an answer, let it be.
I mean, I'll get people on the streets, particularly here in New York. Yo, Paul, all right, man, let it be. you know, truck drivers, taxi drivers, just people everywhere. It obviously hit a chord, you know, like it had done for me. That's something I really feel very lucky to be part of.
Let it be America. Let it be. Oh, let it be. Oh, let it be.
Usted está viendo. Continúa 60 minutos.
De Paul McCartney en un concierto que se va a transmitir